right, Margaret, I'm going to show my screen. Are we good to go? Yes,
we are.
Cool. Hey, everyone. Richard Carroll here. Welcome to an awesome day of FileMaker broadcasting awesomeness. I guess I could say excellence now, since we, as the community of folks who come here every day at 1 o'clock, have managed to scoop up one of Claris's annual Excellence Awards, which is kind of the first time for the live stream. Pretty awesome. Yeah, pretty good. But it's due to all the awesome people you can see on the screen here. This is the upcoming Barad. That's my thing there. So today we're doing a very action-packed, another free thing today. Pretty awesome, more free stuff. So tomorrow is going to be Real News Day on the FileMaker platform. We're going to be doing lots of cool stuff. $100 says it's Ryan calling me, right? And then Monday, we're going to be doing a bonus round with, let's see, Kyle Williams. Are you here, Kyle? Yes. Wave your hand, everyone. Kyle will be here. And then we're going to be doing some modular script action on Tuesday. We're getting closer to Christmas. Nick wants to come back. So that's the upcoming broadcast schedule. As a reminder, I just am finishing off editing a couple videos that we are producing, and we've upgraded. So what we did is we took the Azure setup 2 days with Jacob Taylor, and we've animated it and done a bunch of stuff. We're adding it as part of the complete training bundle. So if you want to support the channel, all this stuff today is free, tomorrow's free, all this stuff in here is free. However, we do recommend, if you're watching this live stream, check out our bundles. Purchase one of the bundles. In fact, I recommend you purchase this one right here. We have a coupon for $249. Margaret will put that out there for everyone for 1 year. If you're interested in a 2-year deal, let us know. But the complete bundle gets you everything, including our upcoming FileMaker certification training. So if you go to fmtraining.tv, press the left button, that's a live schedule of free stuff. These are individual courses. We put them here so you know that they exist, but we don't sell them individually. They all get bundled together in a bundle. That way, we don't have to worry about all these SKUs and all these products, because, it's like, hey, make a course and sell it separately. It's so easy, right? No, it's a lot of work. So we bundle them together. And then you could purchase that. That helps support the channel. We greatly appreciate it. A bunch of you have bought it and renewed recently. Greatly appreciate that. Check out the certification training over here. This is coming up. This is going to be super awesome. I am working on a patch. A bunch of you asked about the RCC shirts. We're going to make those available. I'm going to figure out how to do that. We're going to make those available. But there's going to be a patch you can get, which has basically this logo. It's kind of hard to see it up here. See the little guy in the folder kind of thing? It'll be like some sort of logo. It'll be a patch, and then it'll say FileMaker certified something on it. So if you buy our complete training, you have our training, you come to our training, and then you go and get the certification. We'll give you the patch. You can put it on your shirt, put it on your backpack, whatever. A lot of people put it on their backpack or something. It's kind of a nice thing to have. Anyway, so that's the schedule for these days right here. I will be shocked if we don't go more days the following week. So it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time. It's about 2 hours before the live stream broadcast. And so some of you will be like, well, should I go to that or go to the live stream broadcast? We haven't even scheduled what's going in the live stream. I can only tell you that I will be worn out after doing the 11 o'clock, 90-minute training every day. So Margaret and other people will be running the 1 o'clock broadcast. So down here, you can check out how your person on beginner. So this is really great stuff. We've been practicing with this. Kristian, we've been probably practicing this stuff on the senior engineers. Kristian, are you there? Do you want to tell us a little? Have you enjoyed the practice sessions we've been doing with you?
Sorry about that. I was having trouble finding my unmute button. I've really been enjoying the practice sessions. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but working here at RCC, I'm so fortunate that we don't have to do a lot of server work. I have Jacob. In fact, when people ask me for certain server things, even if I answer their question, I will follow it up with, but you should talk to our IT guy. That's his area of expertise. And so when it comes to some of the backup cycles, setting it up, some of the security stuff, I'm not as knowledgeable as I am with the calculations and the scripting. And so I have found that stuff on the test to be very challenging. And going over the reviewing as we have has been really helpful, since these tests very much are written in a tricky manner.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you wondering about this, so basically I've been practicing my presentation with these folks here, my team, and so you will get the final multi-day presentation, and that'll be January. So very cool. So I'm going to go figure out who's looking for me, or they called my phone. Kristian, you ready to take over? Now, what are we doing? This is another Wolfie thing. What are we doing today? What are we doing? You want to show your screen?
Well, I just finished leaving Richard Carlton a voicemail, so I'm all ready now.
Oh, was that you? Oh, man.
No.
Yeah, he gone.
I deactivated the bots. I was going to mention that I'm duly unprepared for today, but that was before I wasn't able to share my screen. So the last 2 days were the update to Wolfpack, and I think I probably, like many of the presenters, will mention this all the time. It would have been nice to put a little bit more time in. However, I had actual time to put into those last two. Today we're doing the WolfToolbox, which some of you may recall. I'm going to go ahead and boot this up. Whoop. We're going to make the screen a little bit smaller. And basically, this was a tool that I'd presented on. Oh, wow. The screen resolution is real fun. See if I can even fit that on here. So this is a tool that I presented on not that long ago. And I had mentioned a few times to Richard, you really should check it out. It's something that I wanted to share with people because I thought it was cool. But really, the origin was this was something that I made I wanted to use for myself. And so it's hard because I kind of have one of my own databases, but I have this other one because I had a real need for this. And there's two different things that it does. And since doing it, Kyle Williams, he's presented his own XML text editor. FM Watson, he came and presented one. So it was a little bit up in the air. But after Richard had a chance to look at it, he went, we really should put this out there like we do with the Wolfpack. So we've got a website. I think that you may or may not have that, Margs. We're going to put out an overview video, which all of this should have been done today, but everyone's basically been waiting on me. So my apologies on that. We're going to put out an overview video, and you'll be able to download the most current version, which in many ways is almost even still a beta. There are some changes I want to make to this, which we'll get to. And so if any of you saw the last WolfToolbox presentation, this one's going to be pretty similar. I'm going to go through what the tool itself does, how it's useful, how it will support newer versions. And then I want to kind of read the audience a little bit and maybe go slow in a couple sections different than before. And this is where the audience can be really helpful in giving some feedback. We've now had Kyle Williams, like I said, present on an XML updater, which I unfortunately didn't get to check the whole thing out. I was there for FM Watson, and the sense that I got, and sometimes it's hard because I can't see your guys' faces. I have to look at like a message box and another one and just kind of assume where people are at based on engagement with things like questions. But my general sense is outside of those of us who have done this, I sense that it's a little overwhelming when I watch the feedback that I see with people with FM Watson showing us how we can rebuild layouts and scripts. And I see this myself too when I even try to go teach my own staff. In fact, one of my engineers, and I'll mention this later today, is using WolfToolbox on one of my customers' projects. And when I met with him earlier today, I wanted to show him how to do certain things in there and became aware that he wasn't even sure how to use it. And so if he's not even sure all the different ways to use it, I can only imagine that others out there have to be a little bit confused. So again, definitely looking for some engagement on that. We're all involved with our iPhones. Okay. So we're going to break this down into three general parts. The first one has nothing to do, well, I shouldn't say it has nothing to do with it. It's less of an XML updater and more of just a really cool efficiency thing that we have in here. And that's the syntax menu commands that have really been opened up to us by Kristian Smith from Monkey Bread. And this was derived off of a demo file from his website from, if we scroll on here, Alexis. So I took his file, and that's where a lot of this originated from. And I want to make sure that credit goes where it's due. The person who created the clip manager was a file that stopped working on OS Monterey. He gave me some code for this. Kyle Williams, I even stole some code from him. And as Kristian jumped in last time, I'm really glad that he's here. I'm going to show you some of the stuff you can do in here, and it's a smidgen of it. I actually barely know how to use some of the cool tools that this syntax menu thing does. And I'm going to show you what I know, but it actually can do a lot more than that. Once we're done with that, I'm going to try to go through that fairly briefly. We're going to get into the text editor that allows us to pull XML code out of the FileMaker file, run find and replaces on it, and stick it back into the FileMaker file, and talk about how that module can dramatically increase your productivity and make you more efficient. The last thing that we'll go into is how we can turn this into a community-driven tool by sharing things with each other. in a very similar fashion that we have with Wolfpack. So we've got this syntax menu command builder here. And what I want to do is I'm actually just I'm going to move it out of the way to start. Okay. And I'm going to open up our favorite free CRM. And I'm going to open up a script. Okay. And I want to start, I always like starting backwards, if you will. Oh God. Mark, this better be real visible online, because I'll tell you, it's so miserable working in this resolution. Okay, so I've got a blank script here called test, and any of you are familiar with watching me write code or downloading any of the files. You're probably aware that I use the same header in all of my scripts, and I really like having a header. I'm not necessarily always good about filling the parts out. That's one of the things that's helped me out here. But I like to have a header in every script, and I like them to be exactly the same. Additionally, there are certain things, I'm sure all of you do this, that I use over and over and over again in scripts. And so I had template scripts, I knew places to go find it, or I just wrote it by hand every time. And when I was a junior engineer, I did this, and I spent a lot of time per day just reproducing the same thing. So when I want to make a new script during the day, which I do a lot of, I come into here, I right click and I do script header. And I'm done. Oh, I'm not done with the script. But something that used to, have to go find something is just simplified into that. Additionally, it automatically puts the current date in for me. And this might seem like a minor thing, but as much as I've used this script header now for several years, I frequently never filled this date out. And coming back to those scripts months, weeks, and years later, this is actually a really helpful piece of information. It gives you some idea of like when this was created relative to the other things in the database, and sometimes even your own skill level. I was looking at a script just yesterday, and I was wondering, when did I write this? Because I know that Kristian of last year versus 3 years ago would have done something in 2 different ways because of what my knowledge base was at that time. So this is really nice. But after I write a script header, I actually have to do something. So we're going to scroll down here. In most of my scripts, I have some sort of validation section. I need to make sure that certain things are true or not true before we can proceed. So I right click and I have a validation section, and boom, it's just put into there. Similarly, at some point in here, I'm probably going to want to do a loop. And so I can right click and do I want to loop with a counter, or do I want to loop through records? And boom, I've got that. But maybe before I get to the loop, I actually want to call this same script in server. So what we want to do is we want to know, are we in server right now? Okay, oh, the application is server. So we could do =0. I could do a psauce script, and then I can exit. But after psauce returns to me, I want to get the result, and I want to do something with it. So one of the things that I often use, and this does require some custom functions, but I think the principle will be presented here, is I want to get my result. I want to get my code. If the code doesn't equal 0, I want a message. I want to display the message. And I think really quickly you can see here how a script that might have taken me more time can be simplified. A single click suddenly becomes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 clicks. And this has dramatically improved my ability to make scripts. I'll be honest, the way that I would generally make scripts before this is I would take the script above it and copy and paste it because it already had my header, and then I would just delete from it to try to get to a fresh area. And then sometimes the purpose would get left or the date. This was not the best way of doing it. Go ahead, Marks.
Sorry, Stu, we just wanted to know, I missed how you got that right-click menu in a different file. Can you show that again?
Perfect. You didn't miss anything, Stu. I haven't gotten to that. So I probably spent too much time showing you why I think this tool is so cool. Let's talk about how to actually use it. So let's get that out of the way. And we're going to go back to WolfToolbox, if I can find it. There it is. So Stu, you can download this for free from our website. And it will come with a bunch of syntax menu commands. It doesn't have all of mine in it at the moment, and it actually has some that come directly from Monkey Bread's website, which I honestly don't know how to use. I'm happy to point that out, but I'm going to show you all right now how to make them and how to use the tool. Okay, so over here on the left, we've got a master detail that has all of our different syntax menu commands. Okay, and we can search for them. We can also click on our 3 dots here to add a new one. So let's do that real quickly, okay? I'm gonna bring my script workspace over here for a moment, and I'm gonna go, you know what I really like having is just some comments that are always the exact same. So I'm gonna go like this. I'm gonna go to the next line. I'm going to do text. I can spell, which is questionable. I'm not saying that I can spell. I'm going to paste. And I want to know that just really quickly later on, I want to be able to grab a text block like that. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to do a Command C. So all I've done is copy this into my clipboard. I'm going to move that out of the way. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make a new syntax menu command. And we're going to call this comment header. Okay. And it's automatically filled out some of the other fields for us. But let's just very briefly talk about what's going on screen with us. So over here we have command needs section. So there's a few different ways to configure this. Again, I really only know the surface level of this. So I just use always on. But play around with these. Go to Monkey Bread's website, read some of the documentation on this. At the last session, Kristian was great to comment and add some stuff in there. And if he's watching right now, by all means, add some extra stuff in here. I'm really one of the beginners at this. You can make this active or inactive. Then what's really valuable to me that was missing from the demo on Monkey Bread's website, one of the main reasons I made this was a sort, which we're going to come back to in a second. The other thing that it does automatically is it puts this code block right here. Now, as you go into some of these others, you'll see that this actually can change. Now, again, happy to admit it, I'm on the surface level. I pretty much only know how to use this one, even though if you click on some of these, you'll see that there are other commands in here. Now, when you go to my script header, you can get an example of where the doors really open up on this, okay? So script header is not that different from wherever my comment header went. I mean, it doesn't look as colorful, but they're both a let statement calling some Monkey Bread commands, okay? But over here in the script header, this is, even though we're just in a text block, we're in the calculation engine. We now have access to let statements, substitute commands, case statements, and we can do some cool stuff. For example, I target the word author and I replace it with author and get username. So if you download WolfToolbox and you install this and you do the script header, it's not going to say my name, it's going to say your name. And it's going to put the current date in there. So you can play around to see where you can actually make this right click even more dynamic than it is out of the box. Okay, so we go back to our comment header. And so we've got a name, we've got our comment needs selection, we've got our sort number, we've got our master block. This is nothing on the right. This is just the output so you can see it. You don't click in here, you don't do anything with it, but we're missing a really important step. And that was, if you recall, I copied that comment to my clipboard. So I need to get it from the clipboard. Okay, and this goes back to what Kyle, FM Watson, myself, and others have been, and Richard have been talking about, that inside of the FileMaker file, we basically have XML. And we have certain tools to help us get that XML out of there, and this is one of them. Now, over here, you aren't limited to script steps, but when you make a new menu command, I have a default to this, default to this, default to this, because that's 9 times out of 10, almost 100% what I'm using it for. But you should experiment with some of the other stuff you can do with this. It's really interesting. I just don't want to spend too much time on it today. But now I've got that header from here in here as a text block. It's an XML block. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is click on my 3 dots and I'm going to install this. Okay, but I want to pause here for a moment. I want to talk about the commands that we have available. So we can install one. Makes sense. We're going to see it in just a moment. I can remove one, but I'll tell you which one is my favorite. It's this install all active commands. Install all active commands runs the clear all installed commands first, so you wipe the table off, if you will, and then you install these in the order that they are if they're active. That's why I've gone ahead and added this status and this sort, because when I have the right click, Stu, you're probably the same way. You're probably going to end up with a bunch of these, and you're going to want to control the order that they show up in if you're like me, because then you can organize them. So we've installed that. Let's move this out of the way again. Let's bring our script back. If I can grab it. We're going to go and delete that comment. And we're going to right click, and we should have script header somewhere in here, comment header, assuming that there it is. And boom. So that's how easy it is. So if you have a block of code that you write a lot, where you have something like show custom dialog, oops, are you sure you want to do this? Okay. No. Yes. If get last message choice equals 1, which is cancel, then we exit. So this is a validation I do all the time. And I can go in here, highlight it, copy it, move it out of my way, bring the Wolf's Toolbox back over here, add a new one, call this validation with diag. So I don't want to spell dialogue right now. I'm going to get my clipboard, and we've got it. We're done. Let's go ahead and just add it, move it out of the way. I don't know why it wiped that out. I almost feel like it's not going to work this time. Delete all this. And do I have validation? Let's see it. You know what? I think I overwrote that one. There we go. Try that one more time. You know what it is? I hit the add, not install. That doesn't help. Come back over here and validation dialog. There it goes. So when you push the buttons in the right order or the correct buttons, it will work. So I'm going to move that out of the way, bring this back over, delete some of these extra ones that I made, and hopefully that makes sense. Stu, let me. I like it. Looking forward to playing with it. Beautiful. Okay, so that's the menu syntax commands. And again, I can't say this enough, even though I probably said it probably enough times. This is just the surface of what this does. There's actually a lot more that this can do, and I'm not even getting into it. And you really should check out Monkey Bread's website to see some of the other customizations. But what I want to do is I want to jump over to the second module, and this is our clip helper. And I have an example that I showed at the last presentation, which I'll probably walk us through. But this is where I think it might be useful if we go a little bit slower. And again, I'm going to be watching kind of your guys' engagement here to try to assess this a little bit. Okay. But if you've, those of you who are in here, you guys work with FileMaker, and you've probably at some point or another said, hey, I need to build something, and the something that I need to build, it exists somewhere else. So I'm going to copy this thing that works over here. I'm going to make it work over here. And you've probably done it, and you've broken things, and you look at it, and you have two files or two windows, and you basically copy and paste, and then you go line by line saying, okay, I was in accounts, now I'm in contacts, I need to change it from T01 to T05 and find this field or that field, and you incrementally rebuild it. And this is how a lot of us learned initially. I'll tell you this is how I actually learned FileMaker. I didn't even understand how things worked, but I could look at something that did work and rebuild it over here when Richard would ask me to do it. I didn't understand how it worked, but I did this enough times that all of a sudden things started to make sense. And that's very much how I learned FileMaker, painfully and slowly. But there's a better way to do it. Under the hood, as I just showed you with the scripts, you can pull the XML code out of a script or a layout. Let's look at that here real quick. So we're going to come back over to that example we had with the validation, and we're going to highlight this. We're going to copy it to our computer's clipboard. So right now it's just in my Apple's clipboard, and I can't really do anything with it. In fact, if I open up something like Spotlight and I do paste, nothing happens. It doesn't know what to do with it. It's specially dealt with. And that's why we have this get clip button. There it is. Those are the script steps right there. Okay. And now we have these scripts, and we might say, hey, you know what? So I'm rebuilding this thing from over here to over here. And what I need to do is change all the occurrences of T14 preferences, or let's say T05 contacts, to T01 accounts. It's going to look through that block of text, and it's going to find every instance of that, and it's going to change the other one. This is no different than you going into a script and clicking on those steps and changing it. I'll give you an example of this. If you came over here and you said, oh, you know what, I need a new, you can do it pretty much any one of these. But let's do a notes. So we're going to go to accounts, and we're going to go to somewhere in here as notes. Add note. And you go, okay, I want to duplicate this script for contacts. So you're going to come in here, you're going to change the layout, you're going to change the variable, you're going to change the set field. By all means, people chime in if that's kind of confusing. If you needed to make this script work from somewhere else, okay? And so just like we did with the other one, I can actually copy this whole thing. In fact, watch this. I could take multiple scripts, copy them, come over here, get the clip, and now I've got both scripts in here. And here's the thing, it's not about clicking in this XML and looking at it and knowing how to read it. This is probably not going to be a surprise of any. I don't know what any of this says. All I know is that it represents those two scripts. And I know that inside of those scripts that there might be a need for me to change this to this, or in this case, it would probably be T01 to T05. And frankly, there are other ways to do this outside of Wolf's Toolbox. Kyle Williams has his tool. FM Watson's had his tool out there for a really long time. Clip Manager up until recently was great. If you get the code out of FileMaker, you can put it basically in any text editor. I will tell you one thing that I think that is unique to Wolf's Toolbox, and one of the reasons that I built this module is one find and replace is great, but typically I need to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, many find and replaces. In fact, the most common reason that I've needed to use this is turning an invoice module into a purchase order module. And so I need to take every single buoy attached to invoices in the starting point and replace it with a new set of tables. And I've done exactly that with Wolf's Toolbox. So what I've done is, instead of having this single find and replace, I have repos, okay? And I'm going to show you what that means here. I can't open my screen as wide on this resolution, which is too bad, because one of the changes between this time and last time is you can actually see that this is a portal. The screen resolution just sucks on here, and there's not much I can do about that at the moment. But if you notice in here as I scroll, we've got 23 find and replaces. In fact, some of these are pretty significant. 63. I think this is the one. Yeah, this is for swapping out invoices to purchase orders. And you'll see in here, the very top, we've got 1200 to 1202. We're swapping scripts over. So this one's actually rebuilding the scripts. And then if we go to the TOs, here we go. Here's the buoys. So we're changing T12 to T12.2. And I'm going to show you visually kind of what is going on here. There are different ways to come up with your rhythm, if you will. I generally just leave the 2, and then later this would become a T40 purchase order, if that makes any sense. But you can make these find and replace repos, and you can save them. Okay, so that's really great, because you might find like, hey, I've rebuilt this module like 5 or 6 different times. Instead of saving all of the find and replace sequences in a notes block, it'd be great to just have a place where I go click on it and do it again. Okay, then we're going to move this out of the way for a moment. We're going to bring this over here. So I showed you that we can grab these scripts. So and the ones that I specifically grabbed a second ago were actually the ones related to creating notes and accounts. And I did that for a specific reason. So let's go back to the starting point here. Let's go to accounts. And let's say, and this is the example I gave last time, but let's say I want to take this exact module that we have here, and I want to put it in staff. It doesn't exist right now. If we go to staff, I prepped us for today. I just got an empty space. I don't have any notes, okay? So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to go to accounts. I'm going to go to layout mode. And I'm going to say, hey, I want everything in here, which is super hard to do with this resolution. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on this. And just pretend for a moment that I grabbed everything out of there. I'm going to do Command-C, move this out of the way. I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to do my get clip. Okay, so now, and it'd be super cool if we could preview this like Clip Manager did, but if anyone figures out how to do that, come back and let me know. Put it in a web viewer somehow. But we have all of those objects, again, represented XML. Who cares what this says? What we're more interested in is doing some find and replaces on it. But here's the thing. Maybe I want to replicate the notes module more than one time. And that's what the clips are. So find and replace, this is to drive a relationship to a series of find this, replace this, find this, replace this. Think about this like your recipe. These are the steps that you're going to follow to make something. And these are your ingredients over here. So we've got our recipes and we've got our ingredients, okay? But what's nice about these ingredients, it's all the ingredients that we need to make the meal. So we can come over here and go, you know what I want? I want the accounts note layout objects. There they are. And then I come over to find and replace, and I go, what I want to do is take all the accounts notes to TOs and scripts. This updates the TOs and the scripts in a single replace. And then I can run this replace all. So this one, the single find and replace, it's a single set, while as down here, it's a full set of them. And I feel like I'm still probably not communicating this as clearly as I could, but I want to give an example here before I show you guys what I've done in Starting Point. I have an engineer working on a project for me where we have a find button that we click. The find button opens a card window with a master detail for the module that they're in. And I'd open on here, but honestly, the resolution is just tough. And so they've got their master detail, and then it has a search box, and it has some sorts and a couple other real basic features. And then they can search their module, click on it, closes the window, takes them to that record. And my customer loved it. And they said, okay, Kristian, what we want is this in every single module. And I said, that's great. That's why I have junior engineers, because that's a really boring task. So I gave this to one of the people who helps me on all of my projects. And he got back to me and he said, I made one of those find and replace repos with WolfToolbox, and it made my job way easier. And so then I met with him today and I said, just out of curiosity, how do you go get the layout objects and how do you go get the scripts? And he showed me. He goes to the database, goes to the layout manager, finds the layout, does a Command A, does a Command C, gets the clip, finds his repo, runs his find and replace. That's great. It saves him an incredible amount of time. But what I showed him is he could go over here, go into layout mode, in accounts, do a Command A, do a Command C, put it in the get clip, and then on the right here is a little disk to save the clip. Or you go up here and you can save a clip. Now, when he wants to go and reproduce this feature for them, he can go and select the clip and then run the find and replaces, which he does have to tailor to each module. But you might see how this is a whole lot easier than taking the layout, duplicating it, and double clicking on every single object that there is and replacing it. And let me give you a quick example of this. Okay, so I'm gonna move this. Actually, we're gonna use exactly this. So we're gonna come over here to actually, let me back up. Can't skip steps. So let's come back over to Starting Point and let's think about this for a moment. Because though it's a tool, it doesn't eliminate all of the work. There's still some work for you, and you got to learn how to use these things. So I want to rebuild the notes module from accounts to staff. So you may or may not be familiar with this module. Let's go to the managed database and see how it generally works. Okay. And Marks, by all means, you interrupt me if you need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Over here, okay, so over here in T01, because I've done this before, I noticed that we have two notes things here. Let's go ahead and make those orange so we can see them. Okay. There's a portal on the left that shows us all of the related notes to the account. That's why we have this one right here. And you can see the key is ID account. If we click on it, I want all of this account's notes in that table. Real basics right there. Okay. Then when we click into the portal, we set the ID into a selected key, also known as current note. And that's what lets us see the selected record to the right. Again, this is something I've talked about in many streams in the past. If you can understand how to display a list of records, click on a record and select it, that technique is probably the most powerful thing that I use on a day-to-day basis. So we have this over here, and we need the structure to exist in staff. Now, I've already done a couple things to help expedite this, but let's go take a look at staff, which I think is T17. Okay, so there's our notes. Let's go ahead and make them orange so we can see them. And we'll talk about what I've done to save a couple steps here. So first of all, I literally took, if you can tell, T01 accounts. I duplicated them. Now, you could rename them at this point. My personal flow is that I just duplicate things because I know conceptually it just always adds a 2 to the end, and it makes my find and replaces really easy. And then after I've done the find and replaces, after I've pasted everything in, I'll just come and change this. And as everyone out there hopefully knows, it just works. This is one of the cool things with FileMaker. Whereas if I change it before, I have to be much more cautious about making a spelling error, which, as many of you know, is my absolute kryptonite. Okay. But I have to be a little bit more thoughtful than that. The find and replace that I'm going to be running in this instance is to say, hey, I want you to take ID account and swap it over for ID staff because that shows up all over the place. And in the name of the TO, is the word ID account. Now, the find and replace, it's not going to ask you where you want to go and do this. It's going to do it everywhere. And so the one name that I did have to change to start is the word ID staff in here. Okay, so I changed it from ID account to ID staff. The other thing that I needed is I needed some keys that didn't otherwise exist. So in the notes table, I added ID staff. It's right there. That wasn't there earlier today. I added that. And then if we go to staff, STA, if I can, there we go. I added our selector key, ID current node, okay? I'm going to go to the relationship, and I connected those. ID staff equals ID staff. ID current node equals node. Copied exactly what I saw in accounts, okay? So that's some of the stuff that's the old, you still got to kind of do it that way. We're going to go ahead and cancel out of here for a moment, okay? Then what I did is I came over to accounts and I took these objects and I saved them as a clip. Then I went into the script workspace, and I found the notes related to, or excuse me, the scripts related to the notes. I think it's like these ones right here, okay? So I copied these, and I made those a clip. Anyone's a little confused on that, don't feel bad. Maybe raise your hand or just say, hey, can we spend a little more time on what do you mean by that? If I don't hear a question, I'm going to kind of try to illustrate that right now. Over here, in the clips section, I have an accounts notes layout objects. Those are the physical layout objects. And then I've got the account notes script. So these are the two parts. And there's a reason that they're in this order. If you've ever gone, you lost me when you're renaming the objects. You lost me on when and why you're renaming the objects. Stu, I'm assuming that you mean the TOs in the back end. Is that right?
Yes, he said
Perfect.
yes.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Stu, for raising your hand there. I really appreciate that. So they're not orange anymore. I forgot to save it. These two TOs, I need them in order to rebuild the process over there. So what I did is I copied these. And when I copied them, in this case, actually, let's do two different ones. I'm happy with that. Beautiful. I am too, honestly. I used to be nervous then in college. I was like, you know what? I'm never going to figure it out. So when I copy these, you'll notice that it puts a 2 on the end of them, okay? I'm going to just delete that. I'm going to cancel. And then I'm going to go into the script workspace because you don't have to do it my way. My way might even be a little confusing. But same thing, if I come over here and I take this script and I duplicate it, actually duplicate does copy. I think it's copy paste does the command or does the 2 on the end. So I just know this. And so let's go look at my find and replace repo for just a second, and maybe this will help. So the repo that I'm going to run on this, account scripts, accounts notes TOs. If we go over here, you'll notice T01I notes to T01I notes 2. That might be problematic. And then I've got T01 current note to T02. So I just happen to know that with these, that it automatically puts that 2 on the end. So that's kind of the flow that I use. But what you could do is, let's go back over here for a second. I'm not going to save this. And this might make more sense to most people, but when you bring these over here, actually just go ahead and rename it. So you'd come over here, you'd call this T17, call this staff, okay, and get rid of the 2. So I'm going to say, okay. So this one up here, this would be our find. I need to find all occurrences of T01I accounts, notes, ID account. And then over here, I'm going to replace it with T17I notes ID staff. Okay, that's what probably makes more sense. However, I changed more things, and I just know that I'm more likely to make a mistake. I'd rather make the change that you guys see on screen right now when I'm done. And that way, when I come over here and I'm building my repo, I simply take the very first occurrence, paste it in here, put a space 2. I'm not the smartest guy out there, but I can do that. But if I had to come into here, and I'm even hesitant to do it right now, and change this to T17 and then spell, I just feel like I'm more likely to make a mistake. And look at how many of them I have to do. It's much, much easier for me to do copy and then put the other one in there and put a 2. And then afterwards go in the back end and change them. And if I make a spelling error there, it doesn't really matter because I can fix it at any point. So hopefully that's a little bit more helpful. But again, everybody, ask questions. I bet you there are people watching this right now who are confused. And so the questions I think are really helpful. I'm going to pause for a second. I see that Ruben's got a question. There are dumb questions. Most of the time the questions are not dumb or stupid. It's always the way. Exactly. You know, one of the things too that I started doing after college, I'm not trying to be preachy or anything, but I do actually find this to be really, really useful. And sometimes it makes me seem like I'm dumb, but I don't really care, is when someone gives me instructions, I actually spell the instructions back out to them. And one of the reasons I did that is some of you may or may not know I studied psychology in school, not computer science. And one of the things I've learned is we have all these different biases to confirm that we're correct. And so what I'm always trying to do is make sure that I'm not making a judgment, like an assumption. And so even when I think I understood what someone said correctly, I give them that opportunity to let them know that I was wrong about it. So I even just like to spit something out and make sure that I'm not misunderstanding it, even if I think I get it. So now we've got our objects. We've got our scripts, and we've got our objects. And we've got a single find and replace, okay? Now here's the thing. If any of you have ever gone and fixed the relationship graph and then copied the objects to a new layout, you'll know that it calls the old set of scripts, okay? And so what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to select the scripts. And all I'm doing is that if I find the scripts in here, I'm just saying, hey, take the original script and put a 2 on it, okay? And so we're going to go ahead and run our find and replace on this. Let's make sure I've got that selected since we did click on things. So we're going to run our find and replace. We're going to run it. Okay, we're going to come back over to our script workspace, and I'm going to go to the staff module. If I can find it, there's staff, and I'm going to, you know what? I always forget this step. After you do the find and replace, you do need to set the clip. So now you've taken this XML from here and you put it into your operating system's clipboard so that you can use it. And we're going to come over here and we're going to do a paste. And it's thinking. And then what I like to do, in fact, I actually see a problem. It's always fun having that on live TV, is I click in here and I just look for general issues. So no issue, no, there is an issue, 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 issue. So I think I know what the problem is. Remember how I said I was really hesitant to click in here and change something? You guys see that? I broke it. That's why I don't like naming these complicated. I want my 2. It's really hard to break the 2. So we're going to start over real quick. And this is, I'm really glad actually that this broke so you guys can watch this. The first time I do the find and replaces, they don't work. They never do. I do the find and replace, I paste them, I look for an error, I find the errors, and I go and I massage my repos until they give me the output that I'm looking for. And maybe I get down to like 1 or 2 things broken and I go, you know what, this is already so much less work than me rebuilding 100 scripts. I can fix that. So I'm going to delete the scripts that I added on my second monitor where it's a reasonable resolution. I'm going to select our clip again because I need to get a fresh go here. Oops. Counts, notes, scripts. And I'm going to run the find and replace. I'm going to set my clip. I'm going to come back to the script workspace. And I'm going to paste them. And I'm going to look and see, do I have any obvious errors? Fortunately, we don't have many scripts to deal with. I don't see anything that's red. So it seems to me like that went well. And you'll notice that all of my scripts have a 2 after them. And so obviously I've done this before. I've thought it out. I'm going to run a find and replace that says, hey, take all of those objects from accounts, take all the scripts and tack a space 2 onto it. So that when I paste them into staff, all of the scripts will actually call the right one. I won't have to click on every single button and fix it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the layout objects. When I click this button right here, what I've done is I've taken the steps of going to accounts, highlighting the objects, copying them to my clipboard, and getting get clip. I've basically saved myself all those steps. I'm going to do replace all. I'm going to cross my fingers that it works. I'm going to do set clip. This is the part that I always forget. Then I'm going to come back over to starting point. I'm going to go to browse mode. I'm going to not save because God only knows what I've done to this poor layout. And then I'm going to go find staff. And I'm going to cross my fingers. And I'm going to paste. Okay. And it looks pretty good. I'm going to go to browse mode. Okay. And it looks like I've got notes in here. But does it work? So let's click new note. Well, by golly, it other than my awful resolution, I made a note. And look at my value list is there. I got my subject, I got my text. I can do a new note, whoops. New note, I can do the new note from Clipboard. So let's do this. Let's do a clipboard test. So I'm gonna do clipboard, copy that. And then we'll do new note from Clipboard and look at that. So all of my scripts just came over and that object worked. And that's a simple one. But if you like this module and you know that you're going to use it in other databases, you don't have to do this in starting point. What you have to do is go to your target database, make sure that you have the keys that you need and that you name them appropriately. And you know what? You're not going to do it right the first time. Just don't expect that you'll do it right the first time. But try to look at what didn't work and how to change it. So you need these two TOs and you need the keys and you need everything named exactly the same. And then if you've got Wolf's Toolbox, you can go in there, select your objects, run the find and replaces and paste it in there. And similar to the syntax menu commands, something that used to take many steps takes significantly less steps. It's a tired analogy. You've probably all heard me say it at least once, but I heard some time ago, true or not, that the difference between a master chess player and a beginner chess player in the amount of moves that they can see into the future is actually much more similar than we think. The difference, and it's about 7 or something like that. I'm just going to use that number for now. And the difference is how they see a move. And this goes down to a phone number as a similar example. Most people can remember about 7 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. But 123 can be one number. So suddenly, if you group numbers by 3, instead of remembering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you're remembering whatever 3 times that is, 21, what have you. And so the master chess player, they see 3 or 4 or 5 moves really as one move. And so in their mind, they're only seeing ahead a similar number of moves, but they've grouped the different things together. And that's the way that I see of the syntax menu command that Kristian has given us access to, as well as these XML editors and saving our clips and saving our find and replaces, is we're taking groups of moves and putting them together to save ourselves some time. So one of the things that I changed between last time, and again, we can't see it on this resolution, is that this portal here will actually expand. And when I come in and update this, I might make this smaller because the reality is very few of us care what's going on in here. Very few of us can actually read this. One of the things that has been interesting to me is listening to people like FM Watson, Jeremy Brown at Geist, a lot of these people who I tend to look up to. When you hear them talk about things like JavaScript and other things, they'll be like, I don't actually even understand how it works. So this down here matters a lot less of what it actually says and more so that you just understand that it represents scripts and it represents layout objects. And when you need to move code from one place or another, if you know how to do the find and replace. Okay, so I want to pause for just a moment. I love the kitty pictures playing chess. Though I think the only appropriate way for a cat to play chess is to throw all the pieces off of the board or the table itself. So I think I possibly answered Stu's. I think I answered Stu's question there, but I'm going to breathe here for a moment, take a sip of coffee. Does anybody have any questions or possibly want me to go back through any of those steps right there? And again, in terms of, go ahead, Marks.
I don't see any. I'm just reminding that YouTube and Twitch, I do watch your conversations. I do see you. So
perfect.
Please ask questions.
a couple of basics on the buttons that are on screen, because this my engineer was using this morning, but he didn't know what the buttons were. He didn't make this app. I made this app. So we've got Find and Replaces. That is one portal on the left. You can click or double click to change their name. Over here is also the name if you want to change it. The UI on this is I like the black, but outside of that, it's dreadfully bad. A version 2 is coming. I had hoped to have more updates for today. There's only so many hours in the day. But you can toggle to clips where you can store these XML objects, okay? And then the 3 dots allows to create a find and replace repo, delete a find and replace repo, duplicate a find and replace repo. Actually, I need to remind my tech that we have this, because what he was saying is, it's like, Kristian, this is really great. I've got the repo, but every time I go to a new module, I have to change the replace area. And he says, and I've been rebuilding them. What he really should be doing is going in here and duplicating it, so he has the one for products and the one for accounts and so on and so forth. Similarly, we can go ahead and save the clip. You can also, anything that you put into here through get clip. So let me back up for a moment. If you go to a value list, if you go to manage database, if you go to a layout object, any of those things, and you do your Command C or Control C on Windows, it's all Windows compatible, then you can come in here and do get clip and it puts it in here. If you decide that the clip that you have is something that you want to save because you'll reuse it, click on the disk that's right here or do save clip, and that will allow you to create one, and then you can double click on it over here to rename it. So that's how we add our find and replaces. That's how we add our clips, and then we've got a little handy delete for the clips there. Only so many hours in the day. Yeah, I realized last night that you can only go deep into the night so many days in a row before you just fall asleep with your laptop on your lap. But that happens. So that's how we get our clip. That's how we save our clips. That's how we do our find and replaces. We have a button right here to run our replace all, a button to add find and replaces. If we're in a repo, we can of course do a single find and replace. And then we've also got a button to delete. I don't know why that's showing on the single find and replace. We'll ignore that. Probably just clears them out. So we have a button to delete that record, okay? And then the last thing is, and this is the step I always forget, after you run your find and replace, it's literally just sitting in a global in FileMaker. You do need to click the set clip so that it's in your clipboard and you can go back and you can paste it. So that's the general flow. And if you've never messed with this, I really recommend you guys go and just do a real basic one. Try to just take a field that exists in one table and run a find and replace to put it in another table and see if you can get it to work. Just start with something real incremental, and then you can work yourself up to the bigger modules, okay? The other thing that I've added in here, and again, if you watched the last video on this, is all stuff that you probably saw. But Wolfpack has a unique feature where we can export add-ons and import add-ons. And I did this for 2 really, what I think are important reasons. Number one, something that has proven to be true that I mentioned yesterday that it just absolutely tickles me, is that we have developer 1 making something, developer 2 taking it and customizing it and making changes. And this gives them an easy way of transferring that data back and forth, especially when you're talking about related records. Okay. The other thing that it does is, as all of us know, when we're working on something that is interesting and unique to us, it's never done, ever. We're always coming back to it at some point or another. So what happens when I release WolfToolbox version 2 next year that's got all these cool new modules and features that we want and fixes bugs that we don't know exist right now? Then in my mind, myself and everyone else is going, that's great, Kristian, but I've got all of my tools in the old version. What do I do? So this is what you do. Come over here and you say, hey, I want all of my syntax menu commands, except for this validation dialog. That one sucks. But you know what? I didn't want the script parameter core either. I don't know what it is. And then I want every other repo. And I want my clips. So I'm going to click on all those, okay? And I'm going to export them, okay? And I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to show my desktop somehow. Not on that computer, or not on that monitor. And somewhere on here, I've got a file called tools. Okay, let's move this out of the way. And I'm going to open up another copy of Wolf's Toolbox. And this one, this sad one has nothing. He's got no syntax menu commands. He's got no clip helper. This is a real sad one, okay? So we're going to go over here to share. And fortunately, Kyle Williams said, don't worry, I've got you, Ed. And Ed's going to drag the tools file into import. And very similar to how Wolfpack works, boom, it's all loaded into there. And now Ed can go back here and he can go, look at that. I've got all of Kyle's really cool syntax menu commands. I've got his repos for find and replaces. I've even got his clips. And so if a new version of Wolf's Toolbox comes out and we don't want to lose the things that we have, there's an easy way for us to port over all this stuff. Now, if you make customizations of the file, which I encourage you to do, obviously that's going to be a different story. And that gets into another area, which I don't have a specific answer on this, but when I first started making this tool and had an idea that there was the potential for something, and frankly, this really should almost say beta on it, because I still think that it has potential, but a lot is not being utilized, from the syntax menu commands to the UI to just some of the features that are in there. And before it was even at this point, I shared it with some of my engineers and I shared it with a couple people in the community. And Jake, if you're watching, Jake took this and he made some really cool stuff with it. Kyle, you've made some really cool stuff with it. I dream in my head that one day I'll have spare time and I will link this with FM Watson's import thing. If you guys saw his stream, he does these find and replaces, and then he opens up a database that shows you all of the errors in the layout, in the script, in the value list, so that you can realize, so you can find the mistakes and see if you need to rerun the import or if you just need to systematically go and fix this. I would love to link those together. And so I think that there's actually a lot more potential here that's being tapped into. So if you make some changes to this or you have some ideas, bring those back to us. I'd love to incorporate it into it. One of the only obstacles really in holding this database or this tool from growing is myself and the lack of time that I've had to put into it. But I did want to make sure that if a new version comes out, we're able to port all of our stuff over, because part of what happened here is when I made the first version of this that's in my launcher, not even this tool right here, I showed it to Calvin, and Calvin was like, "That's really cool. Can I have that? Like, how do I get that script header thing that you had?" And so I realized we needed a quick and an easy way to share this. There's also one last little bonus in here. And that is, and I've said it a little bit, but I haven't said it enough, is this very much piggybacks on a number of the tools that are in Monkey Bread. And so you should buy Monkey Bread. It's a great plugin that's out there. Kristian's here in our streams all the time, helping to supply us with information and cool new features. And if you purchase it, you can go ahead and put all of his information in here. And there's the script to go ahead and register it. And if this box is checked and you have your info on startup, it'll actually register the plugin for you. So if you've never had the plugin or you've never registered it before, it's actually got the code in there so that you can A, do it, or B, rip the code out of here and go put it in one of your own launchers and one of your own tools that you have. I'm going to pause again for a moment, Marks, because I see that there's been a little bit of convo in Discord. I don't know that there's necessarily any questions.
A quick question from YouTube. It's kind of a I don't know how much time you have left for you to go to a meeting. Would you gloss over the under of the hood design of the Toolbox app? Did you design with your Wolfpack add-ons?
Oh, that's a pretty good question. So let's go into layout mode, and a little bit, yeah, actually. So if we go over here to add-ons, you can see that slide tabs is actually in here. I mentioned this yesterday, but slide tabs is probably the #1 add-on that I use. That, if you guys aren't familiar, is the toolbar, or the button bar with slide panels. Nick first came out with this in a solution called Launchpad, and has since done a number of presentations on it, and I love it. I just didn't want to sit and recreate it over and over again. So slide tabs is in most of the databases that I work on. So I do have slide tabs in here. The other one that I have is this left-hand navigation. Let's go back to browse for a moment. Calvin has been killing it with the add-ons. And this little button right here is a really cool way to add navigation any database that you have. I needed a way to jump around really quickly, and I also didn't want to spend any time developing it in here. And so Calvin's add-on, you just go to, I'm in Target. This is a fake database anyways. So we're going to take this object right here, and we're going to delete it. And I'm going to take Calvin's little left tool thing, and I'm going to drag it on there. And let's go back to browse mode, and I think it's just going to work. Boom. So what's cool is Calvin's add-on, you drag that thing on, it opens this card window, and then you'll notice there's a little tiny gear wheel there, and you click on that and you can customize your navigation. I actually edited Calvin's add-on for this one and added, I think, like an active flag. It's a little bit ugly. I forgot about it till opening it right now. But I don't want to delete all the ones in here, so I think that's what this flag on the right is active. And unlike Calvin's, it only shows you the active ones. And I did a minor visual change on it. Actually, I don't think I did it. A lot of the work in WolfToolbox was done by one of our junior engineers who I just yelled at him and told him to do things. So those are actually two of the add-ons that are in here. And I've been using the add-ons to develop a number of the solutions that I work on. So, but that's all that's in here. Again, I have a number of ideas of what I want to do with this solution. A really good, I don't know if I want to even mention right now, but this morning I thought of a change that I wanted to make to this, but I knew better than to try to do code changes like an hour or two before a presentation. So I do plan to do some more, and I very well will use some add-ons there, but as of right now, just the two were the ones that were helpful to me. I hope that answers our YouTube person. It sounds like they were mostly curious if I used any add-ons on this. Were there other questions, Margaret?
There was a brief one, which I think Kyle answered, but I'll just run it by you real quick. This requires the only MBS free version?
That's a good question, and Kristian might be able to better answer it than I do. I do think that you can get away with the free one. There's two parts. It's been a little while since I last worked on this file, but there's two parts that use the monkey bread plugin. The first one is the menu syntax commands, and Kristian can speak to this. I don't know. I think it works on the free one, but I think that there might be limitations as to what you can do with it on the free one. But I'm not positive. The second part is a little bit more obfuscated, which is there are these get commands to get the clips and to set the clips. And I think initially, the guy who made the Clip Manager, which if you guys aren't familiar with it, what a cool app. That's really what started all of this. And it's not really going to be available. It died in Monterey. But he used the Monkey Bread plugin in order to get and set the clips. And the code is in here. But Kyle Williams, in between me releasing it and getting that, did his own presentation, and he used the Base Elements plugin. And nothing against Monkey Bread. I kind of like the way that Kyle had done it with the Base Elements one. It was less code. And so somewhere in here, there's a toggle button that will use the Monkey Bread versus the Base Elements. And I don't know if you need to have it paid for to use the get or the set clip. So my loose answer is you can get away without paying for it. But if you don't pay for Monkey Bread, don't expect Monkey Bread to be around in the future. That's my one take on it. When people make good software that you like, pony up and give them some money, because we like to have their tools around. And Kristian gives us some really great stuff, but I don't think you have to pay for it. I'm not working for Monkey Bread at the moment. Kristian, you can send me a monkey later, but I think you can get away with the free one. But I would definitely encourage getting the paid version. Syntax coloring is generally free. Calling MBS functions can trigger license check, but we can probably. He says I think you can get about 10% of it. So I think my answer was generally correct, that you can use it with limited functionality. Other questions, Margs?
I don't see any, so I think we should be good. Any last minute?
Perfect.
Wait, hold on real quick. There's one.
Yeah, take your time.
I may have missed this. When you install one of these items, is it installing an FMP or an FMP database?
When you're installing one of these items, is it installing an FMP? Is that like on YouTube or Twitch?
This is on Discord. Scroll up a bit to where Kyle posted a list of script templates, and it's the question below it.
Here are some of my current active script templates. Is it above that?
No, it's below that. Maybe Ken's asking about that specifically and not towards you.
Okay, I see it now. I may have missed this. When you install one of these items, is it installing an FMP12 or in an FMP12 database like the script header? Oh, I think I understand what Ken is asking. That's a good question. So Ken, you can chime in if I'm saying this wrong, but over here in the menu commands, when you install one of these, where is it being installed and what is it? I don't have the answer to that question. That is specifically using the Monkey Bread plugin, and I think that it's being installed into the FileMaker Pro application, because any file that I open up on this machine will have these syntax menu commands. Now, if I go jump on my Mac Mini, its syntax menu commands are not going to mirror what's on my laptop, regardless of what database that I open up. So if you're familiar with the colorizing thing that Kristian has with Monkey Bread over here, where my scripts are colored, this is client specific. So my guess is that Kristian is somewhere, he's installing this probably in the extension somewhere for FileMaker. But I would just be guessing to answer that question, but it is computer specific. So like if I go up here and I wipe out my cleared installed menu commands, which I just did, and I come over here, and I go up to the top to about, you'll notice that I don't have any of them in here anymore. I see that we got an got it, thanks. The XML thing, honestly, like being able to do the clip helper, this is like level 10 in terms of saving you time and power and efficiency. But for those of you who feel like this is a little overwhelming, try out these menu commands. I literally use this in every hour of every day now, just my script header alone. But being able to go into a script, do the script header, do the validation, do the loop, it's huge. And Jake Scheel, I don't think he's actually in attendance today. He's actually, I've seen, do even more complicated calculations in here. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just showing you all the tip of the iceberg. I am not the smartest engineer out there. So would really love if people make some cool ones of these, submit them. Go to support at RC Consulting, send us the export for the tools, and I'll take a look at them and I'll update them on the website if we have cool ones that are there. Just like how Kyle Williams sent us 7 add-ons for Wolfpack X7. Other comments? Don't be shy yet. I'm okay at FileMaker now.
Where is the preference file located? Did you grab that one? I might have missed it.
Where is the preference file? I don't know if I 100% understand that. Where is the pref file located? Okay, Monkey Bread's answering that for us.
Cool. In that case, then I think we're good, Kristian. Thank you so much. This was fantastic. Super cool. I will relink.
You're always too nice, Margaret. Well, hopefully you guys have gotten your fill. 3 days definitely feels like a lot. I say this all the time, but I wish I was a little more prepared. I do want to do an update on this. For a little while, I kind of just took my hands off of the WolfToolbox because though I still think there are some really cool things in here, with realizing that Watson had his set of tools and Kyle had his, it started to seem like, oh, maybe this isn't as necessary. But as of right now, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know of any other text editors that have the repo. And this repo has just been extremely helpful for me. Like I said, my engineer right now is taking what would normally be 2 hours of work and summing it down into even much quicker steps. I was able to take the invoices and invoice line items module from starting point and replicate it into a purchase order module that used the styling from the UI UX sample file that you've all seen Nick do in 5 hours. I got a totally functional module with the new look and the framework from starting point. And most of that time was just massaging the find and replaces, because I would run it, it wouldn't work, I'd have to go back, I'd have to change it, watch out for those spelling errors, think about the logic on it, because it's a different type of work that's there. But Margaret, I'm babbering. You're too kind, and hopefully I'll be back in the not too distant future with something else.
No, it'll be great. No, absolutely. Okay, I am going to wrap us up then and free you from your live stream duties for now, Kristian. So again, thank you everyone for coming. This has been awesome. I just relinked it. So download it and improve, your FileMaker life by making things not take forever. Okay.
And send us feedback.
Yes, Kristian thrives off of feedback. Cool.
report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.